Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, there's news. I wasn't sure what we were going to talk about this week because there was some press availabilities, but not a ton. And CJ Stroud's supposed to talk on Wednesday. So I was like, oh, okay, we'll talk about some stuff then, but I don't know what we're going to talk about before then. And then Ryan Day, always anticipating our needs, Tony, went out and hired himself a defensive coordinator. And you know what, Ryan Day? Thanks, buddy. That was good. That was helpful. That really helped us fill a gap in our editorial calendar. We appreciate it.
Yeah, because it's not like you needed one. The defense is fine. So, just a very thoughtful, I guess, early Christmas present to all of the Ohio State media. So, we do appreciate that. And yes, Ryan Day announced the hiring of Jim Knowles as defensive coordinator effective January 2nd. Jim Knowles is the current defensive coordinator at Oklahoma State. I have to admit, Tom, people are saying, when is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? And Jim Knowles has been the other name. Like Marcus Freeman was one name. Jim Knowles has been a name for, I keep saying a week or so, but if I don't even know if it's been like 4 days or 8 days because time moves differently right now. But like he's been the guy. I wasn't sure like that this would happen this quickly because the season is still going on. Everything has just moved. Like the timing of everything has no meaning anymore because there is no wait until after the season to announce the new coaches. No, why do that? Don't even wait until the bowl games to do that anymore. And here we are. So Jim Knowles, Tom, if you would you care to tell us a little bit about him or the Oklahoma State defense, or I'll give you his background first.
Okay. Well, he went to Cornell. I know that. Ivy League man.
Nobody knows where Cornell is, Tom. So yeah, he did. He played defensive end at Cornell, then coached there for a little while, and as a up and coming coach. Then it was actually the head coach at Cornell from 2004 to 2009. Before that, he had a cup of coffee at Ole Miss. But after Cornell, went to Duke and was there for from 2010 to 2017 as their defensive coordinator. Coached the safeties initially, then ended up coaching the linebackers his last 3 years there, and then has been a defensive coordinator at Oklahoma State since 2018. And what he has done for the Cowboys defense over the years has been impressive because there didn't used to be a Cowboys defense, Tom.
Yeah, the whole concept of Big 12 defensive coordinator a couple of years ago would have been, oh no, 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 no. Why would you do that? That's no good. But yeah, this is an Oklahoma State defense that, and I will get halfway through this sentence and half of our audience will be screaming at their podcast device. Yes, but his top players were so old this year. And okay, we'll get there. Okay, it's all right. This is one of the best defenses in the country this year. He was a Broyles Award finalist as one of the best assistant coaches of the nation. And, statistically, he had a fantastic defense this year. They were number 5 in SP plus. They were against the run. They gave up 2.7 yards per rush, 2.7 yards per rush attempt. That it tied them with an outfit, Georgia. Are you familiar with Georgia and their work against the run this year? Because my impression was that it was fairly good. And they were one spot behind 1/10 of a yard per attempt behind a team called Alabama, also known for playing a little bit of defense. Wisconsin, the top team in the nation at 2.2 yards per carry. But yeah, Oklahoma State tied for 3rd in the nation in rushing yards per attempt against. They were 15th in the nation in passing yards per attempt against at 6.3. That's half a yard better than Ohio State. And, even Ohio State's rushing defense was pretty decent this year up until a certain point. For a certain period of the season, shall we say, the Ohio State rushing defense was pretty good. And Oklahoma State was almost a yard per carry better than that. So that's they were substantially better through the air. They were substantially better on the ground. And Oklahoma State, yes, they had a very, very veteran defense this year. They benefited a lot, I think, from the extra year, the bonus COVID year. But the raw material they are working with at Oklahoma State is an awful lot of 3-stars. They're working with, Iowa level talent on defense, maybe, and getting better than Iowa level results with it. So, if you look at the Iowa defense, and most people do, and go, hey, they look pretty well coached. Well, This is a team taking basically the same source material, probably playing against some better competition than a lot of the Big Ten West is, at least in the offensive side of the ball, and getting better results this year. So, yeah, that all seems good. He was the only name. It was interesting after Marcus Freeman kind of was the hot rumor for a minute, and like everyone on our staff heard Marcus Freeman all at the same time, and it was like I remember Mark Givler sending out a text like, if you were trying to push your name and sort of force Notre Dame's hand here, I think we all would be hearing the same stuff from a lot of different people all at the same time. And Mark Givler was exactly correct about that. But then after that, the only name anyone heard was Jim Knowles. Like it was really pretty much Jim Knowles. And you hear like every once in a while you hear another name. But Alex Gleitman, I got to give Alex Gleitman credit. He had this last Thursday as this is someone that they were zooming in on. I heard it independently on Saturday and posted that on our board. Like, hey, this is the only name I'm hearing. They're going to make a Godfather offer to him. A couple other people on staff were kind of also hearing the same name, but it was like, that was it. You pretty much just heard that one name. So it was pretty clear this is where this is trending unless something really surprising happened. And nothing surprising happened. And Jim Knowles is now the defensive coordinator at Ohio State.
Yeah, and when we talked about him, maybe it was Sunday, or Friday, or talking about the Oklahoma State defense. And just to give people an idea, when Tom says these guys are old, they had 2 6th-year guys, 3, 4 5th-year guys, and a couple of 4-year guys. And basically everybody in that starting defense was at least a 4th-year guy. The thing that I liked most about it was 8 of the 11 had received some sort of academic all Big 12 notice as well. So they're old and they're smart. But when you look what he has done to the Oklahoma State defense since he arrived, just in raw, simple numbers, so people will understand and not fall asleep when Tom talks about his crazy analytics that nobody knows what that stuff means. But so in 2017, before he arrived, Oklahoma State was middle of the road, number 5 defense overall in the Big 12, giving up 409 yards per game. Now, the next year, things went very south to 452. They were the number 9 defense, total defense in the Big 12. Then in year 2, moved up to number 7. Year 3, moved up to number 5. And then this year, number 1 overall, the only defense in the Big 12 to allow under 5 yards, to keep offenses under 5 yards per play. This has just been a progression. He's been able to tweak the defense more and to get it more to his liking and utilize his guys more. So he'll come into an Ohio State defense that has kind of all of the pieces that he's been working to build at Oklahoma State and to use. And what he does, he runs a 4-2-5, which is basically what Ohio State does. They'll just end up mixing some different pieces in, and like it's not going from a 4-2-5 to a 3-4 or a 3-3-5 or anything like that. But there will be some of that. He can go 3 down linemen to 4 down linemen pretty quickly. But we've also seen Ohio State do that as well. They are a 4 down line team, but they will throw 3 linemen out there at times. It's just been a gradual progression. And in the Big 12, if you're shutting teams down now, the offenses haven't been that great the last year or two. So take some of that with a grain of salt. But Ohio State was not the only program coming after Jim Knowles. Like there's some bidding going on.
Yeah, I had heard quite a bit that Penn State was making a push for him. Oklahoma State was trying to keep him in Stillwater. Oklahoma State just does not have the resources that Ohio State has. So the number I heard was 1-3-1-4, something like that Oklahoma State was throwing at him. This, I think, for Ohio State is going to be, I don't know if they released the number, but I had heard kind of $2 million or in the neighborhood of $2 million a year for Jim Knowles, maybe a little shy, but certainly the richest assistant contract in the history of Ohio State, if the folks I was talking to were correct. But, you look at, first of all, yes, this is a little bit of a down year in the Big 12 offensively, but when you're giving Big 12 defensive stats and where they rank in the Big 12, well, guess what? Everyone in the Big 12 gets to play the same lousy offenses. And in fact, Jim Knowles is kind of at a disadvantage because he doesn't get to play Oklahoma State's offense, which if you watch them on Saturday, ooh boy, not great. The talent level at Oklahoma State, I just wanted to pull this up because I threw this out earlier, and every once in a while I'll throw something out and be like, oh, that wasn't what I thought. no, this is exactly what I thought. Here's where Oklahoma State is talent-wise in the team talent composite. Number 42, UCF. Number 43, Iowa. Number 44, Minnesota. Number 45, Northwestern. Number 46, Missouri. Number 47, Oklahoma State. Number 48, Purdue. Number 49, Oregon State. Number 50, Boston College. That's the neighborhood you're playing in. So, this is a team with Iowa level talent, Minnesota level talent, Northwestern level talent, Purdue level talent, and they are playing at this like elite level on his side of the ball. That should all be very, very, very encouraging to you, because they're not doing it with crazy freak athletes. This will be the first time he has a Denzel Burke on his team. This will be the first time he has a JT Tuimoloau or Jack Sawyer on his team. The first time he has a CJ Hicks on his team. They are a really, really uniquely, he's going to get to have some, he's going to get to play with some toys that he has not had access to before, which is really intriguing, because if you can do it with what you had before, now what can you do with potentially bigger, faster, stronger players?
Anytime you bring in a new coach, they talk about, the fans get excited because they're going to be more aggressive, and he does this and they like to do that. And I saw Jim Knowles say somewhere that they consider offense on defense. Basically, they like to be aggressive. Now that can be a good thing, that can be a bad thing, but they did lead the nation with 8.7 tackles for loss this year. That's 0.4 more than anybody else per game. And they led the nation in sacks this year with, let me get it here. 54, which is 3 more than anybody else. For reference, Ohio State at one point was leading the nation in sacks. They finished with 35, so 19 fewer than Oklahoma State this year. And I don't know how blitz heavy he is. We'll get into more of that as we learn more. You'll be talking to Ross. He's going to look into him as well, and we're all going to be studying him and seeing what to expect. I did do a little bit of watching on Coach Tube, and to see what see if you can learn anything. And they do have what is called the Leo, and the Leo is he has this his PowerPoint presentation going on, and says you want him to be like between 6'3", 6'4", whatever, 220 to 255 pounds, run somewhere in like a 4'6" to 4'8". And it's a defensive end, but they'll move him around, play him just wherever. Will Smith used to do this when he played defensive end at Ohio State. Sometimes you just see him like get up and shuffle around like a linebacker. But the one thing calling I think it was a stacked linebacker luck or whatever, is they put that Leo directly behind the nose tackle as a linebacker, and then he just has like one read. And I'm assuming these are just running downs, because you wouldn't move that guy on a passing down necessarily, but he has just one read and he's there to help the running game. And now the three other defensive linemen, you've got the nose tackle playing a 0, and you've got the other guys that can either be 3, they can be a 5 tech, just however tight they want it to be, however wide they want it to be. And then you've got that Leo to fill in that gap. Now, I don't know who that would be for Ohio State. I could see somebody like Jack Sawyer being that kind of guy, to where he can also kind of run down the line if need to be, or get into the backfield and take a slow developing play down. There are different things they can do, and like I said, they play with the nickel. He plays with the 4-5. That's what Ohio State does. There's still a lot of figuring out to do. Like, is the nickel Tom next year? Is it Ronnie Hickman, or is he the second safety, or is it Josh Proctor and Ronnie Hickman as the 2 safeties? Who is the nickel? Is it Lathan Ransom? Like, there are still things that have to be figured out. But the thing, it's not going to be this huge sea change. If it would have been from if it was Jim Leonard or somebody coming in who runs a 3-down lineman look, and now do you even have 4 linebackers that can do what you need to do? So it's an easier fit, and it's one that has been productive, as we've seen, especially this year.
Yeah, and before we get into that, I really want to try and make sure people understand the difference in talent that we're talking about between these two programs. Tony, He had one player on his defense ranked as higher than a 0.9 on the as a recruit. Okay, one player, and that was a true freshman safety who I don't think has played a whole heck of a lot this year. One. Tony, how many players on Ohio State's defense? I'm going to include Cade Stover here, and there's some other guys who haven't played a ton because of injury or whatever this year. How many players on Ohio State's defense were ranked as a 0.9 or higher as recruits coming out of high school?
Well, I don't know how many players on defense there are, but let's assume there are 42.
Mm-hmm.
I would say 35, 32.
Exactly 32. Yes.
Boom!
Exactly 32. Yes. So, and he, do you think he would have liked to have a young safety coming out of the state of Oklahoma named Josh Proctor on his team this year? That might have done Ohio State some good as well if they had Josh Proctor healthy this year. But it is very, you can do all the, well, yes, they were old as much as you want to. 1 to 32. And yes, a recruiting ranking does not automatically mean you are going to be an elite player. 1 to 32. I feel like this is an important point that people need to really need to internalize, because the talent composite is one thing that really I think maybe puts it into better focus. But to your point, this is presumably going to be a smoother transition. This is not going to be a perfect transition. You are going to see guys in the wrong place in spring ball. You're going to watch the spring game, and there's going to be horrendous busts in the secondary because someone is out of place and they're still learning, and you've got a bunch of young guys, and you're going to freak out, and it's like, just wait, it's going to be okay. This is bringing in Kerry Combs. I think Brian Day can look back at the Kerry Combs thing and say, like, it was worth a try. Didn't work as a coordinator. Trying to shift things to Matt Barnes in the middle of the season. It was worth a try. It worked to a degree. There was significant improvement, but it didn't get them to where they needed to be. This is kind of like a necessary step, and it'll be interesting to see, now you have, as of January 2nd, you have 11 assistant coaches. You're only allowed to have 10. So at least one person is not going to be on next year's staff. We'll have to see who that is. I suspect, as we have discussed, there are probably going to be multiple changes on that defensive staff moving forward. But yeah, I think this is something that will not be a perfectly smooth transition, very clearly. But you're not going to have to completely change the talent on your team to fit this defensive scheme. You're not bringing in, to your point, you're not bringing in a 3-4 guy where you really have to have a 340-pound like plugger in the middle. And maybe you could turn a Tyleik Williams into that, maybe, but you may have to go out and recruit something. You need bigger defensive ends for that, that defense. This is going to be a little bit of a smoother transition. They're already sort of playing 4-2-5 anyway. This is going to be something where you're taking the same basic idea where you can at least kind of port your players over without having to completely remake your roster, but do some different things with them and change your scheme and maybe, provide some different looks. And, I'm planning on having Ross Fulton on the morning show on Friday. He wasn't available before then, but we'll have Ross Fulton on the morning show on Friday. I believe he's talked about Knowles doing some more pattern matching, which is something we've talked about, in zone where, you're not just sort of sitting in a zone. It's not just a drop zone. You're doing, it's more of a modern defense than what Ohio State has been running, a little bit more advanced. It's something you hear about with Nick Saban all the time. So I think my understanding is that Knowles kind of does a lot more of that stuff. So you're going to see, potentially a very different looking, it's going to look the same when they line up, but it's going to look very different once the ball is snapped next year.
I think another positive is that Jim Knowles has been running his own defense for years and years and years. Like he's got experience with it. Discussing talent level and recruiting, the next 4-star commit that he gets as a primary or secondary recruiter will be his first. Now that's a product of being at Cornell, being at Duke, and being at Oklahoma State. That obviously that will change. Not unlike the Alex Grinch, who had never, maybe only landed a couple of 4 stars while he was at Mississippi State, Missouri, and when he was at Missouri before Washington State. But yeah, there are going to be changes. I don't know how many. I know we've set some over-unders. I don't. There's been discussion about Larry Johnson. Is this going to be his last year, and what happens then? You look at Al Washington. Not backers. They were good the year before. Al Washington has spent much of his career coaching the defensive line. Uh, who knows what's going to happen with Matt Barnes, Kerry Combs. I think he's going to stick around unless he doesn't want to. Then there's still like, what's going on? What will happen with Parker Fleming? Does Day want to keep a sole special teams coordinator, which is not something that everybody does, but it's something that a lot of people do, and there's a lot to weigh there. And I don't know that Ohio State will announce anything until after the season. Oh, I didn't think they were going to announce anything already, and here they have. So we will keep an eye on that. We will talk about that. We will continue to talk about that. But Tom, let's move on.
Yeah. I know where we're going next, and it was like, oh boy.
I will hand it off to you.
Tweet 5:19 p.m. December 7th, 2021. It's Pearl Harbor Day, so this is not the most surprising thing to happen on this date, but oh boy, Kirk Herbstreit on Twitter. Tora. Here comes Kirk Herbstreit on Twitter. After 7, all caps, years of, going to do a swear here, earmuffs, bitching, and complaining from a vocal minority that the CFP system is rigged and the, quote, small guy will, all caps, never get a chance. Haven't heard much from you the last couple days. Everything okay? What's the next conspiracy theory? 2 question marks. Can't wait! Exclamation point. 'Cause that one is history. Period. Tony, we constantly hear that ESPN is not involved in the selection of the college football playoff teams. We're constantly told this. They're just television partner. Hey, we just put on the TV show. The committee does this. Did that strike you as overly defensive for something he has no stated role in? I'm not saying he has a role in it. I'm just saying, boy, that was like, it's like walking in the door at home and your kids are like, what? No, I didn't. What? No. I didn't. No, what? No, I didn't. What? Why would you think that I spilled a bucket of paint in the art room? Why would you even think that? Like, I didn't. What? I didn't say anything. Can I see that? No. Why would you even accuse me of that? How dare you?
I think he left out the last line, which would have been like, told you we weren't crooked, because this is very much a we thing, like complaining that he's putting himself in there. He's very defensive about this. I guess he's not the only person at ESPN who is defensive about this. But my biggest thing here is what happens if Oklahoma State beats Baylor?
Well, sure, they didn't come very close to beating Baylor, did they? I think that game was decided by a significant margin, wasn't it? Am I wrong on that?
It was separated by points.
Mm-hmm.
So significant separation there. So if Oklahoma State wins, there's going to be discussion about Oklahoma State and Cincinnati. That may have kept this going till 8 years. But the other thing is, like, this has been obviously a very crazy year. It took the ACC to be knocked out of it. It took the Pac-12 to have nothing to do with it. And you still get 2 SEC teams in. That tells you how crazy everything else is going on, and nobody else can even field a team. So it's not the end of any conspiracy theory or like this is something that could happen every year. No, it took this kind of year to get Cincinnati in there, and just barely in there. Like this is not something that I would expect to happen every 7 or 8 years. This was, I think this is a once a decade type of thing, and barely once a decade. And this is not some sort of proof of anything other than we all knew it was possible, but it's far from probable. It's far from likely. It's so unlikely that, it's way down the list in terms of probable to likely to unlikely. It's far down the corner of unlikely. And you saw everything that had to happen to make this occur. And I don't expect it again next year or the year after, because so much had to happen and so much had to fall right and so much other stuff had to fall wrong. And then to dance, we did it, we did it. But I thought, as you said, Tom, I thought these were separate entities. ESPN, college football playoffs.
Yeah,
This is not peanut butter and chocolate. This is peanut butter and a bus. Like, they shouldn't even be. They're not even related, other than we air this for you.
yeah, and just in case you're thinking that, well, maybe Kirk Herbstreit just got into the all Crunchberries Captain Crunch this afternoon and ate a whole bowl and was all sugared up. Here's a tweet from Chris Felica, from the producer for the game day show The Bear. I thought the system wasn't fair and rigged against the group of five. Can we stop with this narrative now? Congrats to Cincinnati for making the CFP. That tweet came out at 12:23 p.m. on December 5th. So, like, literally as soon as the field was announced, boy, that was his first thought. Like, oh boy, methinks thou doth protest too much. Like, it's just that it's like, boy, that's a very, very, very defensive posture to take. And all the stuff that you talked about, but also Cincinnati had to go undefeated in the regular season last year, very nearly beat Georgia in the Peach Bowl, come back, get fortunate enough to play a good Notre Dame team and not have this be a 7-5 Notre Dame year. So you got the fortune of playing a good Notre Dame team at their place and winning. The winning is not the fortunate part. The winning is just the fortunate part is this was not, Notre Dame didn't do it what Indiana did, because Indiana was also supposed to be a big signature win, and then Indiana fell flat on their butts and went 2-10 this year. So you were fortunate enough that Notre Dame held up their end of the bargain after you beat them and kept winning, and that looks like a very good quality win. And even with all of that and all the stuff that happened with the Big 12 being out and the Pac 12 being out and two SEC teams and the ACC being out, all of those things. And then they slid in the side door at number 4, and Oklahoma State missed the pylon on that touchdown by about 4 inches. And I feel like if they had hit the pylon on that touchdown, they might have been in and Cincinnati might have been out. So, and how confident are you? I mean, the playoff committee will never, ever tell you the answer to that, what they would have done there. But how confident are you that they wouldn't? Because, all this dancing, and it's like Cincinnati did all this stuff right. And they weren't perfect this year, but they did all this stuff right. All this stuff broke their way. All this stuff happened elsewhere in college football that cleared the path for them. And still, they might have made the college football playoff by 4 inches. Like, I don't know that I would be spiking the football over that and, doing in-your-face Space Coyote on the fact that, well, it only took 8 years and finally it happened, and it happened by 4 inches when everything else in the universe lined up for it. Like, okay, yes, we all know it has theoretically been possible, but the fact that it took this much and was this ridiculous and they still barely made it by 4 inches, that's not, that is not, oh boy, you morons are so wrong all along. Like, look at this. It totally happened. Like, and all it took was these 17 things happening in exactly the right order. And you said it couldn't happen. Shame on you, Tony Gerdeman.
Yeah. These are the guys who will pick a 16 versus 1 every year, and then it doesn't happen for 30 years. It happens on the 31st year. And they're like, told you, I called it. 16-1. I called it. Yeah. Good job. It happened once. You're talking, I'm wondering, what if Notre Dame had a tougher schedule and they had wins over, say, a Michigan or an Ohio State, and over another, over another top team where they had better wins than Cincinnati, and then they had to go to the head-to-head, which we know is kind of a squishy, iffy situation. Now, Cincinnati having a conference title would have helped them in that, but I mean, we saw how the committee felt about Cincinnati early in the rankings, and they begrudgingly had to continue to move them up. And I don't think they would have been too upset about putting Oklahoma State in there ahead of them. And I don't know that they wouldn't have. I can't say Oklahoma State would have earned it. They certainly would have earned it, but so did Cincinnati. But I can't confidently say they would have gone with Cincinnati. And I don't think that Herbstreit or Felica could, even though it seems
Mhm.
they seem to be very confident that this is always inevitable. And yeah, everything is inevitable, Tom. Comet hitting Earth is inevitable, but it, hasn't happened in the last 7 years.
That's true. And I just wanted to share a tweet from at _Mike_Stanford. He just replied to my tweet, just saying, "Hey, this is a big hire for Ryan Day. This is a major reset. Like basically, hey, good hire." It just tweeted me, replied to my tweet, "Go live, you cowards." So told him, sorry, we're recording a show. I appreciate the energy. Like it. We'll do a live show sometime later in the week. But yeah, I'm glad we can be a part of people's lives like this. This is good.
Go live, you cowards. Anything else, Tom? Anything you want to touch on?
No, I think we've covered the two major stories of the day. A major addition and a complete meltdown for no reason, apparently, which is good. That's really, I don't know what else we talk about. I didn't think we'd have a show.
Day.
I didn't know we'd have a show today. And then there you go. The news cycle always delivers.
But eventually there's going to be nothing left because everything's going to happen before January because everything's just like squishing in like the Star Wars trash compactor. Tom, you understand that reference?
I do.
Okay, good. Okay, good. All right, good. All right, I think that will do it then. We will have more shows this week. You may have noticed we're not 7 days a week anymore. There's not 7 days a week of much to talk about right now, but we're not just going to go back to the show is titled Buckeye Weekly. It's meant to be just one show a week. That has not been the case for, I don't know, 3 years, 4 years. Who knows at this point? But it won't. We'll get you some shows. We promise. And we do thank you for your patience. We thank you for tuning in today. And we will talk to you guys later. Have a good one.